Hidden treachery. Revealed Captain Sarah Chen floated in the observation dome of Research Station Alpha 7, watching the binary stars of the Kepler 442 system paint the darkness in brilliant orange and gold. 23 years of peaceful cooperation with the Galactic Alliance had brought humanity to 47 star systems, each one a testament to the galaxy's promise of unity and shared progress. The station itself was a marvel of combined technology. Human engineering merged seamlessly with alien innovations from 12 different species. The soft chime of her communication device interrupted her thoughts. Dr. Marcus Webb's voice carried an unusual tension that made Sarah push off from the observation wall and glide toward the central hub. "Captain Chen, you need to see this immediately. I'm in Lab 7, and I'm afraid we have a significant problem." Sarah's stomach tightened. Webb was the station's chief linguist and cryptographer, a man who had spent the last decade decoding alien languages and cultural patterns. He rarely sounded worried, and never without good reason. She propelled herself through the station's corridors, past laboratories where human and alien scientists worked side by side on projects that would have seemed impossible just a generation ago. Lab 7 was Webb's domain, filled with quantum computers and holographic displays showing complex linguistic patterns. The doctor turned as she entered, his usually cheerful face drawn with concern. His dark hair was disheveled, as if he had been running his hands through it repeatedly. "Sarah, I've been monitoring routine communications from the Alliance Monitoring Station on Proxima Centauri B. Just standard diplomatic chatter. But 3 days ago I noticed unusual patterns in some of the encrypted transmissions." Webb gestured to a holographic display showing streams of data in various alien scripts. The patterns looked like chaos to Sarah, but she knew Webb could read meaning in the most complex codes. "Initially I thought it might be routine military communications, perhaps exercises or supply logistics. The encryption was surprisingly sophisticated, using a quantum entanglement cipher that I'd never encountered before." Sarah moved closer to the display. "How sophisticated are we talking about?" "Beyond anything we've seen from Alliance technology. This required computational power that should be impossible with current galactic tech standards. It took me 72 hours of continuous processing with our most advanced systems to break even the outer layer." Webb touched a control, and the display changed to show translated text in human standard. Sarah began reading, her blood growing colder with each line. The communications were between High Arbiter Kethmaran of the Galactic Council and War Marshal Vexathera, discussing what they called the human contamination problem. The messages spoke of humanity's rapid expansion and technological adaptation as a viral spread that threatened the established galactic order. "This can't be right," Sarah whispered, but Webb shook his head grimly. "I've verified the translations 17 times. Sarah, they're not just talking about restricting human expansion, they're planning complete elimination." The next series of messages detailed a coordinated strike plan called Operation Cleansing Dawn. Every human colony would be hit simultaneously, with attacks disguised as pirate raids or natural disasters. The plan was meticulous, accounting for human defensive capabilities and escape routes. Most chilling was the timeline. The operation was scheduled to begin in just 14 days. Sarah felt the artificial gravity of the station seem to shift beneath her feet. "How many Alliance members are involved in this?" Webb brought up another display, this one showing a complex network diagram. 41 of the 47 Alliance species have signed on to the operation. Only 6 have refused to participate, and they've been classified as potentially compromised by human influence. The betrayal was almost total. Species that humans had shared technology with, fought alongside, and considered friends had all agreed that humanity needed to be wiped out. The Vectar, whose homeworld humans had helped save from an asteroid impact. The Mordani, who had requested human engineers to help build their new cities. The Thessian Collective, whose artists had collaborated with human musicians to create the famous Songs of Two Worlds that played throughout the galaxy. "There's more," Webb said quietly. "The communications indicate this decision was made over 3 years ago. They've been planning this since before we established colonies in the Vega system." Sarah's mind raced through the implications. 3 years of friendship, cooperation, and shared scientific advancement had all been a lie. Every joint project, every cultural exchange, every moment of apparent unity had been part of an elaborate deception while the Alliance prepared for genocide. What triggered this decision? She asked, though she dreaded the answer. Webb pulled up another file. According to these communications, the Alliance became concerned about what they call accelerated human development. They were particularly worried about our problem-solving capabilities and what they term our dangerous creativity. The files showed detailed analyses of human technological advancement. In just 23 years of galactic contact, humanity had not only adapted alien technologies but had improved upon them in ways that surprised their original creators. Human engineers had found solutions to problems that had stumped alien scientists for centuries. Human artists had created works that resonated across species barriers. Human explorers had established successful colonies in environments that other species had deemed uninhabitable. They're afraid of us, Sarah realized. Not because we're aggressive, but because we're too good at learning and adapting. The communications use the term adaptive contamination. They believe that human influence is changing the galactic community too rapidly, disrupting established hierarchies and traditional ways of thinking. Sarah read through more of the intercepted messages, each one more damning than the last. The Alliance had conducted secret studies of human settlements, analyzing everything from agricultural techniques to social structures. They had concluded that human influence was fundamentally incompatible with their vision of galactic order. Have you verified the authenticity of these communications? Sarah asked, still hoping there might be some mistake. Multiple verification protocols confirm authenticity. The quantum signatures match known Alliance transmission patterns, and the linguistic styles are consistent with known speakers. This is real, Sarah. The weight of discovery settled on her shoulders. 43 human colonies scattered across 17 star systems, with a combined population of nearly 2 billion people, all targeted for elimination. Families who had built new lives among the stars. Children who had been born in alien sunlight. Researchers pushing the boundaries of galactic knowledge. All marked for death by the very allies they trusted. Sarah activated her emergency command, authorization. Computer, initiate code Black communication protocols. Priority Alpha message to Earth Central Command. Admiral Harrison Burke commanding. Code Black protocols activated. The station's AI responded. Quantum entanglement communication. Standing by. Sarah looked at Webb one final time. Doctor, I need you to compile everything you've found into a complete intelligence package. Every message, every authentication code, every piece of evidence. Already done, Webb replied, handing her a data crystal. Sarah, what are we going to do? She took the crystal, feeling its weight despite its tiny size. Inside this small device was proof of the greatest betrayal in human history, evidence that would shatter the peace and cooperation that had defined humanity's place in the galaxy. We're going to warn everyone, she said grimly. And then we're going to make sure the Alliance understands exactly what kind of species they've decided to betray. Final warning. Delivered. The Grand Assembly Hall of the Galactic Alliance had never hosted a meeting quite like this one. Ambassador Elena Rodriguez stood at the center of the circular chamber, surrounded by representatives from 47 alien species. The architectural marvel rose in tiers around her, each level designed to accommodate the unique physical needs of different Alliance members. Crystalline beings from Andromeda floated in specialized atmospheric pods, while the massive Gorvan delegates occupied reinforced platforms designed to support their considerable bulk. Elena had served as humanity's chief diplomatic representative for 8 years, building relationships and fostering cooperation across the galaxy. Today, those relationships meant nothing. The data crystal in her hand contained the evidence that would end an era of peace and begin something far more dangerous. High Arbiter Keth Moran presided from the central dais, his elongated frame draped in the ceremonial robes of his office. The Zephyrian leader's multiple eyes focused on Elena, with what she had once interpreted as benevolent interest. Now she recognized it as the calculating gaze of a predator studying its prey. Ambassador Rodriguez, Kethmaran's voice resonated. Through the Chamber's translation system, the Alliance is honored by your request for emergency assembly. What matter requires such urgent attention? Elena activated her personal translation device and stepped forward. Her voice, when she spoke, carried clearly to every corner of the vast hall. Honored members of the Galactic Alliance, I stand before you today not as a partner in peace, but as the voice of a species that has discovered a fundamental truth about this organization. A subtle shift ran through the assembled delegates. The Mordani representative leaned forward with apparent interest, while several others maintained carefully neutral expressions that Elena now understood were masks. For 23 years, humanity has participated in this alliance in good faith. We have shared our technologies, opened our worlds to trade and cultural exchange, and contributed to joint scientific endeavors. We have considered you our friends, our partners in exploring the galaxy's wonders. Elena paused, letting her words settle. She could see some delegates shifting uncomfortably, particularly those whose species had benefited most from human innovations. However, we have recently discovered that this friendship has been entirely one-sided. 3 days ago, our monitoring stations intercepted communications between Alliance leadership detailing something called Operation Cleansing Dawn. The reaction was immediate and telling. Several delegates maintained perfect composure, but others showed clear signs of surprise or concern. Elena realized that not all species had been fully informed about the timeline for humanity's elimination. These communications, which I can authenticate through quantum signature analysis, reveal a coordinated plan to eliminate all human presence in the galaxy within the next 11 days. War Marshal Vexithera rose from the Korthak delegation section. Her species resembled enormous mantises, and her voice carried the clicking undertones of her native language even through the translators. Ambassador Rodriguez, surely you do not expect this assembly to respond to obvious fabrications. The Alliance would never consider such actions against a member species. Elena smiled coldly. I had hoped you might say that, War Marshal. She activated the holographic display system built into the chamber floor. Immediately, the intercepted communications appeared in the air above the assembled delegates, translated into the primary language of each species present. The first message appeared in flowing Zephyrian script. The human contamination continues to spread. Their adaptive capabilities exceed all projections. We must accelerate the cleansing timeline. The second message, bearing Vexithara's own authentication codes, responded, Korthak strike fleets stand ready. Human colonies will not suspect coordinated attacks if we maintain the pirate raid deception. A third message from the Thessian collective leadership, our artists report human creative influence is fundamentally altering traditional galactic cultural patterns. This confirms the contamination assessment. Elena watched as the messages continued to display, each one more damning than the last. The chamber erupted in a cacophony of voices as delegates began arguing among themselves. Some maintained their innocence, while others seemed genuinely shocked to learn the full scope of the operation. The evidence is clear, Elena announced, her voice cutting through the noise. 41 Alliance species have agreed to participate in the complete genocide of humanity. You have analyzed our settlements, studied our weaknesses, and planned our extinction with the same care you might use to plan a scientific expedition. High Arbiter Kethmaran raised his primary manipulator for silence. Even if these communications were authentic, Ambassador, they represent contingency planning only. The Alliance seeks peaceful coexistence with all species. Peaceful coexistence? Elena's voice carried a note of disbelief. Your own messages refer to human influence as a viral contamination that threatens galactic stability. You fear us not because we are aggressive, but because we adapt and innovate too quickly for your comfort. She gestured to the still displaying messages. You have spent 3 years studying us like specimens, waiting for the optimal moment to strike. The only thing that surprises you is that we discovered your plans before you could execute them. Counselor, Raktesh of the Velnari Union spoke from his elevated platform. The human species demonstrates concerning patterns of technological acceleration and cultural influence. Surely the Alliance has a responsibility to maintain galactic stability. And there it is, Elena said, turning to face the Velnari delegate. The truth behind your diplomatic language. You believe humanity must be eliminated not because we threaten you militarily, but because we represent change. Because we solve problems in ways you never considered, create art that moves alien hearts and ask questions that challenge established thinking. She looked around the chamber, making eye contact with as many delegates as possible. You fear us because we remind you that stagnation is not stability, that tradition is not wisdom, and that comfort is not security. The Gorvan delegate, massive even among his own people, spoke in a voice like grinding stone. What does humanity propose? The Alliance represents 46 other species with legitimate concerns about rapid change. Elena had been waiting for this question. She reached into her diplomatic pouch and withdrew a small device, placing it on the chamber floor where it projected a new holographic display. Humanity proposes that the Alliance have exactly 24 hours to abandon Operation Cleansing Dawn completely. All strike fleets must withdraw to their home systems. All surveillance of human colonies must cease. All plans for action against human settlements must be destroyed. The chamber fell silent. Even the ambient sounds of life support systems seemed muted. And if the Alliance refuses? Keth Moran asked. Elena's expression hardened. Then humanity withdraws from the Galactic Alliance permanently and takes whatever measures are necessary to protect our people. Vexthara's mandibles clicked with what Elena recognized as dismissive laughter. Ambassador, your species controls 43 scattered colonies with limited defensive capabilities. The Alliance commands the combined fleets of 47 species. What possible threat could humanity pose? Elena smiled, and for the first time since entering the chamber, her expression carried genuine warmth. War Marshal, you have spent 3 years studying our settlements, our technologies, and our cultural patterns. But there is one thing you have never bothered to understand about humanity. She paused, looking around the chamber one final time. You never asked what we do when someone threatens our families. Elena picked up her device and walked toward the chamber exit. As she reached the great doors, she turned back to address the assembly one final time. You have 24 hours to make your choice. I suggest you choose carefully. The doors closed, behind her with a sound like thunder, leaving the Galactic Alliance to contemplate the consequences of underestimating humanity's protective instincts.